Marie here at Intuitive Healing in Katikati. This is kind of a part two to the video that I just shared about attention not being love. I'm still journeying, and as I'm journeying, I moved on to journey the relationship and the understanding and the awareness of what I've locked in, what pain I've locked into my allergies regarding my husband then. And what came out, and with the journey work, you really get to empty your emotions. You actually get to hear their side of their experience of that interaction of an experience together. And then you get to have a higher conversation, which is more of a telepathic conversation. And it always goes on. It's just whether we're listening or not. These souls are always communicating. And the souls have come in with an agreement to partner each other in an experience. This is from my understanding of all the journey work that I've done. This is what I've really truly found. Is we have a body and we have a mind, and we're living and experiencing very much just from body and mind, but we also have a soul. And so the journey work helps us get in touch with the soul and get to the reasons and the root causes of why did we have that experience, why did I feel these emotions. And we communicate with the body and ask, what is the pain, what are the emotions. We ask the mind, what are the beliefs, what are the old outdated concepts that we're trying to live life by. And we ask the soul, what the hell does that all mean, what is it really about. And we do get answers. And so part two of that was talking to my ex-husband and really emotionally releasing my feelings about a time we were having where I was really emotional and looking to him for understanding, support, for him to hold the space, for him to choose a relationship with me rather than what he was doing was retreating. When he was sober, he would retreat because he was tired a lot as a shift worker. But what I learned more is that he had entities as well that were trying to provocate his pain and his wounds. And as a young boy, his mum died early, and he had built a wall around that pain. And over the years, as he was growing up, to avoid feeling the pain and the chaos that was in all of those feelings of grief and loss and anger and fury and rage, he would layer layers on this wall. And he kind of felt this pseudo peace in the wall, because the wall would protect him from feeling these things. And I think as you grow up as a child, you forget that you've even built a wall. And so he sits on the wall, and when the wall starts to get threatened by cracks, life, or bosses, I remember him yelling and screaming and losing his cool with bosses because of alcohol, cracking his wall and making his peace leak through the pain and the angers. And it would project all over his boss, and it would project all over other people that he was arguing with. He never really argued with me. We never really argued because he never really wanted to lose it. But when I was having this emotional time and I was beginning my journey work and healing, and out was coming, my walls were starting to break down because I wanted them to, and out was coming my angers and my sadnesses and my griefs and my insecurities. And I was demonstrative and noisy in the house and crying a lot, and having children. And women are emotional because we're trying to heal. the emotional body is part of the ally, of the body, mind, soul. The emotions come up so that we can let them out. And we haven't always got the tools to let them out and know how to heal them. That's why I was really grateful to the journey work when I found it, because it would bring resolution. But anyway, while I was in this journey processing in the early days, it was rocking his foundation of this wall. And during this journey today, I discovered his words from his soul that said that the reason why he retreated back to go and watch TV or to go and have alcohol, or to disappear into a good book, was really to avoid having to face the feelings and the possibility that the foundations of his wall that he had concreted and maintained and protected himself and given him a false sense of peace. Meanwhile, all of his pain was on the inside of the wall. He'd forgotten about that pain, and the wall was his safe space. So in that retreating away from me, his soul was saying, I cannot risk your emotions cracking my foundation and your energy shaking my foundations of this wall, because if this wall comes down, who am I? I can't have this peace that I've maintained, which is a pseudo peace of avoidance, and the best he could do as a child, and then the habit of it growing into young adulthood, and then into being a man. He didn't know how to go in, and he didn't have the desire to go into that bucket of pain. He just was happy to have the wall protecting that. And so the soul remembered and said to me, because I said, well, where is the love in that? Because I didn't want him to fix me. I didn't want him to change anything about what was going on, other than I just needed him to hold me in that peace so that I could come to peace and feel held and supported and acknowledged while I was doing my emotional chaotic healing. But he didn't have that awareness, I thought, until I spoke to his soul, and his soul said words to me that reminded my soul, and this was what happened. It said, my personality said, well, where is the love in that? I'm wanting the love. Where is the love? If you retreat and you are behind your walls and you kind of turn me off and reject me and pull back into that wall, all it did was make me more kind of pressuring to get that peace from him, to get that love from him. And so it made me more noisy and more sort of stable and more loud and more needy and more desperate for the attention, because I knew that his love and his peace and just the holding brings me to peace. And so I was longing and desperate for him to do that, and I was calling for it and crying for it, but it was too unnerving for him, and it got to a point where he would literally pull away and kind of switch off. And then the soul just said to me today, I said, what was that all about? What have I learned? What have I learned in that? And it was a bit about that first video, is that we're looking to others to fill up our cup, because we've disconnected from all of that pouring, loving energy from source. So if we're not getting the attention from the other person in our life, the other people in our life, we are desperate and feel starving of love, desperately longing to just be given a little drop, even just a little drop. And that's sort of how the desperation comes, is that you'll take a little drop over anything, over nothing. But really, we are starving because of our bodies shutting off the energy coming in, and the parasites sitting over our chakras and our energy, and making sure that no love from God, from source, is coming in, so that we churn up and we are wound up and we are generating negative emotion, which is that you project onto your loved ones your pain. And they are, of course, retreating behind their walls because they feel attacked and they feel threatened that their peace, may rock their very foundation, may unleash all of the can of worms inside there, and that they may lose control, that they may hurt us because they're afraid of their own pain. And so the soul of my partner, my ex-husband, said, when I said, where is the love in that? Where is the marriage vows? Where is the support? And he said, our souls came to teach us how to reconnect with Source and to open up, to remember the love that is and was always flowing from birth through us. And that he played a role perfectly for me, which was a person that was emotionally unavailable, so that I had to come to my own awareness that I was looking to the wrong source of love, and that the lessons that we played for each other were, well, they're individual. And so I'm not talking about what I played for him, but I'm talking about the role that he knew that he played for me. So his soul was saying, I actually played the role that I came in, that we agreed, because I love you so much that I played that role of that emotionally unavailable husband, so that you could emotionally release all the rage and all the anger and all the frustration. And I took it. I didn't wear it. I didn't own it. I just let it bounce off my wall. And in that, you were having to go inside yourself and find your own connection to Source again, because I wasn't feeding you the attention and giving you the love that you wanted, but that you were trying to take from me. Whereas the love that comes in from Source is free. It's yours. It's pouring. And you had disconnected yourself and your heart and put your own walls on. And that was really profound. I remembered the boy inside of the man who was wounded and put up walls when his mum died. And I could see that little boy, and I always loved that little boy, and I loved the man that was my husband. And later in the years, when he got emotionally unavailable, a soul part of me was aware that's what was happening. But the human, the little girl in me, was just so angry. I was banging on his walls, pleading, desperate, and realizing it's what I wanted to do to my dad but couldn't do. And you often bring in people in your life that play that similar role to your parents and the wounds that you have, a mother wound or a father wound. And so my father was emotionally unavailable, and then my partner had to become that as well, so that I could really go into myself and go through my emotions. And thankfully I had the journey and the journey tools. And interestingly, when I, through that long 18-year relationship, was able to come back to source and reopen a lot of my energy centers to my own love, to the love of our Heavenly Creator that pours and animates through us. And we came to an amicable conclusion of our marriage, where we were able to let each other go and wish each other well, because we had got the lessons. We had done the homework. We had given and received what we needed in that relationship from each other, from the soul contract, from the agreement. And yeah, so that was that. And so I really highly recommend the peace that I feel now and the healing that I can feel here and in my body. My mind had come to understand, and my soul definitely was remembering, but my body still had held on to these pains and these human memories. And so once the soul and the body and the mind were now having a good conversation, and a really beautiful conversation with my ex-husband's soul and mind through telepathy of the journey, I could already feel the letting go in my body. And so it's well worth it, because this is how we liberate these pains that can be seasonal and repetitive, and intolerances and allergies. I was basically intolerant of his behavior, and I judged it, and I ultimately wasn't accepting my feelings. And we feel guilty and ashamed when we know that we're projecting a lot of our pain onto somebody else and desperately trying to make them the one that gives us the love, when really it's the love and the forgiveness of our own child self and our human having these emotions and feeling disconnected from source and trying desperately to get love outside of ourselves and from people. So big journey, and you might see yourself in that picture. Hopefully you understand that there's a little bit more to our feelings and to our pain and to our projection on others, our desperations, our neediness, wrapped up with unworthinesses and all manner of beliefs where we feel that we're disconnected from source. And it's asking the body to open back up, when the bucket of each cell is full of pain. Of course you can't feel the love coming in, but actually when we pull the pain out of that bucket, like weeding the garden, there it is, there's the love. So it's not really filling up, it's that we're already full, and that this is streaming in to pour through us like a river of love. And so empty the buckets of pain, because they heal the body, and that's what happens spontaneously or intentionally. If you need help, if you're excited and interested, if you're ready to empty the buckets and free yourself and have real peace, not just a pseudo peace with a whole lot of walls, because behind those walls are honestly the things that are going to make you sick. Things that can fester and turn into nasties that can reduce your quality of life and your health. So give us a call if you want. Text, get booked in for the beginning of the year. There's plenty of time. and we have this opportunity to return back, to let the body and the mind come out of fight or flight and release these entities that are keeping us locked in our hamster wheel of pain, and really let the source in and flush and detox the cells of all the wounds, and clean up our water in our cells. So my number is 022 5345 220. You can text me, or you can send a message on this page and get started on the journey.